Phil Rucker, your piece took my breath away. A shrinking American presidency. Take us through what you reported.
Yeah, Nicole. Well, that's how a lot of observers of the American presidency put it. I interviewed Doris Kearns Goodwin, the noted historian, who said, look, and after the Great Depression, during World War II, FDR, President Roosevelt, sought leadership. He assumed greater responsibilities because he knew that Americans yearned for direction, for leadership from their president. And the opposite is happening here. You have a president in Donald Trump who is focused on the public relations aspect of this pandemic response, who's focused on what his image is going to look like and what it all means for him politically, but who's deferring a lot of the key decisions. It's the governors who are deciding how and when to reopen their states and balancing the public health needs with the economic needs. It's business leaders who have to grapple with what to do about their employees, what to do about their businesses, and how to propel things going forward. And it's the scientists trying to come up with the vaccine. And the president is really playing cheerleader and commentator.
Dr. Gupta, take us through, and I guess I ask you to put on your global health policy hat and take us through what it's like to see America, and some of the actors are the same. I mean, Dr. Fauci was at the forefront of the world fight against AIDS. Dr. Fauci at the forefront of the world fight against Ebola. Dr. Fauci was at the forefront of the world's preparations for the avian flus and those strains. Now, under Donald Trump, America really exiting in a pretty profound and public and obvious and undeniable way.
I don't know how we have a pandemic strategy without engaging with the WHO, without having a strong CDC, Nicole. It's impossible to actually have a comprehensive preparedness and response strategy without communicating, without funding the organization despite its flaws, without funding an organization, the WHO, that needs our help. And so the policy itself makes no sense. What's even more demoralizing is somebody like Peter Navarro, who, as far as I can tell based on his bio, has never cared for a patient, doesn't understand what COVID-19 is beyond some political talking points, basically taking aim at doctors, nurses, respiratory therapists, you name it, by saying that we are crying wolf, essentially, by blaming the CDC, by obviously castigating the WHO. It's irresponsible. He's going to have blood on his hands by saying that us in the medical community are making too big of a deal on COVID-19 and the effects of social distancing are going to kill more Americans. It's not rooted in fact, but it's the type of comment that gives air cover for people to act ridiculous, like go to a state capitol in Lansing armed, thinking that governors and public health leaders don't have their best interests in mind. Navarro is giving them cover. His comments are dangerous and they're reprehensible, and he should be ashamed.
We have those comments. Let's play them for you, and we'll come back to you, Dr. Gupta. Here they are.
Early on in this crisis, the CDC, which really had the most trusted brand around the world in this space, really let the country down with the testing, because not only did they keep the testing within the bureaucracy, they had a bad test, and that did set us back.
So, Dr. Gupta, you've been on this show a lot. I've never seen you speak with such anger and passion. Talk about how counterproductive that is for some. I mean, the CDC is part of the executive branch of government. To see another person, and this is really an ideological soulmate, a very close advisor to Donald Trump, come out and take aim at the CDC is stunning.
I mean, it's beyond demoralizing. I mean, and Navarro's full comments, again, he was blaming the medical community writ large. It's scapegoating the likes of which I've never seen before. And who is he to do that? Who is Peter Navarro to make these comments? He has no public health background. He's not tasked to respond to COVID-19 with evidence. It's the CDC that should be doing that. It should be the public health leaders. The fact that he said that also, by the way, is their really anemic response to what Dr. Bright laid out last week in testimony, which showed that it was the administration's lag on responding to this, on having the humility to say, oh, hey, by the way, the WHO's technical guidance on testing, we should have followed and done what South Korea did. And if we did, and if we had the humility to do that, we may have followed their trajectory. They did pretty good. And South Korea has actually done really well because they listened and had the humility to follow guidance from the WHO. So his comments are factually incorrect as well, in addition to being reprehensible.
So, Claire McCaskill, we know who Trump doesn't listen to, down with the CDC and the WHO, but it sounds like maybe he's taking pandemic advice from his son. Here's Eric Trump.
The Democrats are trying to milk this for everything they can, and it's sad. They think they're taking away Donald Trump's greatest tool, which is being able to go into an arena and fill it with 50,000 people every single time, right? So they will, and you watch, they'll milk it every single day between now and November 3rd. And guess what? After November 3rd, coronavirus will magically all of a sudden go away and disappear, and everybody will be able to reopen. They're trying to deprive him of his greatest asset.
So, Claire, let's see if we can follow the thread, because this is all about understanding what motivates the president of the United States. The Democrats want to deprive Donald Trump of his MAGA rallies. And so what's the thing? The coronavirus is here now, but gone in November. How does that make sense?
Yeah. What an idiot. I mean, this guy is trying to say out loud on a national cable news outlet that the Democrats somehow created this pretend virus that now close to 100,000 Americans have died from. And the Democrats did this to keep his dad from having rallies. And by the way, as I pointed out over the weekend, Fox News continually allows people on their airwaves to say ridiculous things like this while all of them are broadcasting from home. This is like nutso. It's just nutso. And, I over the weekend when I saw Navarro, first of all, I saw Trump Jr. Do that on Saturday night. My head exploded. And then Navarro clearly was green-lighted by the White House to go after the CDC. And then Azar comes on and tries to defend the CDC. What you have at a moment of crisis, you have a desperate need for everyone to work together, especially all those people who have responsibility. So the notion that the White House green-lighted Navarro to go on a Sunday show and try to take down both HHS and the CDC in the middle of a health pandemic that is killing Americans, it is stunning incompetence. And you just wonder, who is strategizing this? Who thinks this is a good idea?
I mean, Claire, do you really wonder that? Who strategizes everything? Donald Trump sits there with the clicker in his pajamas and his iPhone. I mean, who strategizes anything?
I think he's so ill-equipped, and I'm being kind here, for this job. He doesn't understand that how well he leads the people who work for him matter. I mean, that matters how well he leads them. He thinks it's okay to let them all fight with each other. He thinks that is somehow shows who's strong and who isn't. What it's showing America is they can't get their act together. I mean, the CDC is Donald Trump. It's his. It's his. He owns the CDC. The guy who runs it is his appointee, who, by the way, couldn't get the job under Bush because they vetted him and said, we don't want him.
Claire, I mean, I think you just hit the nail on the proverbial head here. He's not going to be judged in November on how many of his own executive branch officials he had fired and smeared on Fox and Friends. He's going to be judged on how well he took control and helmed the CDC when the test was not up to par and redirected HHS when at first it wasn't doing everything they needed to do and took control of the WHO and demanded more transparency from China and got on the phone with the European leaders and said, let's ban. I mean, he is not going to be judged on how well he acted like he was still a buffoon on a reality TV show and fired people that work for him. This is his team. He will sink or die politically based on how well he runs the pandemic response team. Do you think anyone has explained that to him, Claire?
I don't think he gets that part. when Peter Navarro goes on TV and criticizes the CDC, it is just as if Peter Navarro stood and looked at the camera and said, Trump sucks. It's the same thing. The CDC is Trump. HHS is Trump. Azar is Trump. Seema Verma is Trump. They're all Trump. And by the way, the CDC was working at the WHO during the period in question. They had dozens of people embedded in the WHO. So why weren't they exposing China's lies? So it is really just a comedy of errors. It's worse than a circular firing squad because people are dying.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.